want to welcome Paso Robles Wine Fanatics. I'm sure we're going to have people who are going to join in here as we go along, but we might as well get started. I want to respect Alex's time. I just wanted to make a couple brief announcements. One, the glasses, they're coming. Okay, I ordered some, so they'll be available shortly. Some will be available to pick up in Paso. So that'll happen soon. I'll make an announcement as soon as it all comes together. And one other thing is there's going to be another party. The reason for that is going from November, we had a party, but we're going to move it to April, is because it's a really, it's good. Not November is difficult. We pulled it off, but that's not a repeatable time frame with harvest. Harvest was very early this year. So the normal way would be, and Alex can attest to this, that you start late, or maybe right after Labor Day, and it should carry through into early November. Would that be about right, Alex?
Yeah, for most years, I would say so.
Yeah. So we're trying to avoid that. And then with the holidays pressing up, Thanksgiving, and then of course Christmas, we're going to try to move it. The weather is more predictable in April. So every April we'll have another event, and we'll have a new set of winemakers. I'm not going to tell you who's participating yet, but the lineup is good. So April 22nd, save the date if you're interested. And I'll be releasing some information in the next few weeks, so you can join in. We're hoping you're going to show up. So anyways, tonight we have Allbaer from Allbaer Wine, and we're really excited to have him. He has quite a resume, and I think you're going to listen. You're going to be interested in his story, and the wine is really, really good. So I'm going to hand it over to Jason and carry it away.
Thank you, Mike. Give me just a sec while I get the video back up here. There we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. By the way, if anybody's having a wine that they'd like to share, I don't know. My camera never can pick it up. I am enjoying the 2020 Sangiovese. Ouch. I have had all of 2019s and loved them all. Only the Syrah and the Sangiovese of 2020 have I opened to test so far, and both have been spectacular, but we will come back to that later on. So let me kind of talk a little bit about how we will go through the conversation. As we typically do, though, this one will be slightly different, and I'll explain why. We generally like to get to know you, Alex, as a person before you as a winemaker. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of your background, non-wine related, just get to know you. You have such an interesting background in wine that we'll probably allocate a little bit more time for that. And dig in less to your basketball experience and that kind of stuff, and a little bit more probably on the wine, just because we do have limited time and there's a lot to dig into there that is pretty exciting. So if that works for you, we'll get started.
Yeah, it sounds great.
All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you again for joining. Thank you everybody who has dialed in. We apologize, by the way, if there were any confusion on the time. Initially Facebook messed up and showed a 5 p.m. time slot, so hopefully we didn't lose anybody to that, but thank you all for dialing in. I'm personally super excited about this conversation because I'm a big fan of these wines that you are making, Alex. But before we talk about the wine, as I stated, we want to know about you and what you did before wine. I know you grew up working in the craftsman stuff with your parents a little bit, and your dad, I think, was a general contractor.
Yeah. My dad was a general contractor, and we moved up here after. Here's Paso. We moved here after the Northridge earthquake. So I was born in.
94.
Yeah, I was about 3 at the time. And yeah, my dad kind of took a leap of faith. My dad was born. So here's the backstory of why Paso. My dad was born on the same day at the same hospital as this other guy named Tom. And they grew up 3 doors apart from each other their entire childhood. And then as Tom Sr., my dad's friend, grew older, his family came up here and they managed the cemetery, and they still do. So that's how we became affiliated with Paso at the time. And after a multitude of vacations and trying to get tired of the traffic and the burden of being a moderate developer in the Los Angeles County at the time is so stressful. So my parents decided to upend us and drag us up here so we could be with my godfather, and that's kind of how we landed in Paso.
Do you have any memories at 3 years old of that earthquake?
No, I've heard stories, but I don't quite remember the whole fiasco.
For those who aren't in Southern California, the 94 Northridge earthquake was one of the most significant in Southern California. It was 7 point something, if I remember right. I wasn't here either. I think I was in Illinois at the time, but I've heard a lot about it. It was a big one.
Yeah, it was significant. I think it cracked the foundation of the house that we had owned at the time, and yeah, it was just a perfect time to upend everything and come up to Paso. So that's how we made it here.
So you got started early. So there's not a lot of what did you do before wine, I know. But you can tell us, what do you like to do when you're not working? And I get the sense that you come from a family with a strong work ethic.
To a degree, yeah.
But what's fun?
Yeah, and I think it's important. But I think I'm pretty obsessive when it comes to learning about everything I can about wine. I'm still trying to look at everything in a dogmatic way and see if there's always ways to improve. But I don't know. I think besides wine, I mean, I think the next biggest thing for me would probably be fitness or cycling and basketball, and trying to, keep my other side of my mental capacity kind of strained to a degree. I think that that's quite important. And yeah, I think that that's the key to the sustainability part of this business is keeping your mind and your body sharp. So
sure, you probably argue that for any business you're in, I suppose, but that's a good point. Biking, road or mountain?
So I used to do both. And I got in a pretty significant bicycle accident in July of 21 on a road bike, and it was ironically enough like right next to the cemetery. And that was my second encounter having a kind of a significant crash, and yeah, I woke up in the hospital. I had no idea where I was.
Thanks.
And after that, I couldn't risk, everything that we have going on for a measly bike trot around the vineyard road. So I had to trade in my road bike for a Peloton. So I do that during the week, and the odds of, having a cycling accident on that's quite low. And so I use that to kind of do my base training. And then on the weekends, I'll, ride my mountain bike, and we have some wonderful trails out here. And yeah, it's something that I think also keeps you in touch with nature a little bit. And especially like dealing with nature's variables like the rain. So there's certain trails right now that are just absolutely singing. And there's some other ones that we can't even touch for another month or so. So
yeah. You get much basketball time in?
I'm trying to rehabilitate my knee, so I'm trying to stay away from a lot of high impact kind of things like that.
Sure.
So I'm doing like a lot of knees over toes, guys, in between intermittently in my workouts. And then if anybody ever has any knee issues, I went through after a large training block last year. I ended up straining myself and didn't even really recover until the end of harvest, and then still it was kind of an issue. So doing these knee workouts and knees over toe guy on Instagram, I mean, he has in the last like 4 weeks I've been able to make a pretty solid recovery. So I think basketball will be in the future, probably the end of February, so I could start training for we have a little men's rec team that we like to play on. So yeah.
If you're watching basketball in downtime, who are you watching? What's your favorite team or favorite player?
I was literally just watching the Laker game before I popped this on. Yeah. My parents are big Laker fans when I was a child, and I had like a little Lakers bib that they put on me like as they were exiting the hospital. They're big Magic Johnson fans and classic Lakers. So for me, yeah, I'm ride or die, purple and gold.
Are they going to make the playoffs this year?
I mean, I would hope, but with
Anthony, if they trade Westbrook or not, huh?
Yeah, well, you have to give away half of your life for that. So, no, I think they should just be patient. I think that's the most important key.
I don't think their star player wants to be patient. I don't think he's got enough time left.
No. The player LeBron or the GM LeBron, no. I don't think
yeah, same, right? Okay, so let's move into wine. Why everybody is here. So you were first introduced to wine when your dad, and I'm super curious about this. Your dad, as a general contractor, gets his hands in a negotiation on 1 ton of Petite Sirah. My question is first, why? As a general contractor, what does he know about wine, and what's he going to do with a ton of Petite Sirah? Has he had an experience prior to that?
No, I wouldn't say. Clueless. We had no idea what was going on. I would think we had just being in the community. I think a lot of people some people just make wine for fun, and I think some of his friends were getting into it, and the guy the background is we were building an apartment in a farm barn, more or less, and in that contract we wanted a ton of grapes from the site that we were building the barn on, and that was my first initial experience in the wine industry, not wine industry, just home winemaking kind of thing. And I think it was just he wanted to make his own booze. At that point, I didn't think anybody was taking anything too seriously at that time. And for nothing more or less than for the fun of it, which is kind of fun. And I still think he would have no idea if he did it again, if I would ever have the same path or end up in the same position that I am in today. I think it's a lot of luck and happenstance. And so, yeah, it was kind of like a fun little niche. Make a ton of grapes, make 600 bottles of wine and kind of drink it throughout the year, give it to friends. The ladies at the bank love it. And yeah, he still makes a little bit here and there, and we pass it around to the community, and yeah, I think he has some fun with it.
And it was made all on the same property that they were doing work on, that first ton.
Yeah, actually, I was making wine there still. 2020s were made out there.
And this is Solana?
Yeah.
Right?
So not really a winery, but we can make it clean enough to where it was acceptable to, be able to have fruit intake and barrel downs and have my own little stuff, and allows me to be pretty meticulous in terms of, I think we did 1 lot, and for 1 ton, it took us 4 hours to sort through it. So there was no really time constraints out there. which was quite nice.
Yeah. So before jumping into then your next move, the other question I forgot to ask you, your favorite adult beverage that is not wine.
Adult beverage.
Yeah.
Adult beverage. I would say a Coors Light.
Where's
Yeah.
Light? Is
I
that
haven't-
your harvest wine?
Yeah, I haven't ripped one in a while, honestly, because it's been so cold. But I'm sure when the spring comes around, I'll be taking a sip or two off of one of those. Yeah.
Got it. Okay,
They're
so
refreshing.
your dad introduces you to wine after he negotiates a ton of Petite Sirah. You guys play around with this on that property, kind of make your first vintage. You get interested in this, and that leads you to Cal Poly. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, actually, I was studying to become a doctor because my dad had been doing a bunch of custom woodworking type stuff for primarily doctors and lawyers in the area. And so I was garnering a lot of influence from them. And I was starting to go on that path, and I had done a program, which kind of like an entry-level nursing program. And it just wasn't for me. Well, even though I had some, decent grades going into college, and I just couldn't see myself doing it, especially when I'd spent, a majority of my life either in the woodworking shop after school or outside with, building stuff and houses. And it was just like a very stark difference to what I had experienced previously. And I think that was the biggest eye opener for me in terms of switching my career path and going in a different direction.
So at what point in school, or you didn't go to Cal Poly studying that, did you? Or did you? Were you studying, were you going to Cal Poly to be a doctor?
No, so I was actually a derelict the first couple of years of high school, and didn't really take my grades too seriously. And so junior and senior year, I started to pick up pace, but I'd already blown the whole university opportunity. I got into Cuesta, and then from Cuesta, I was taking all of the nursing prerequisites just to start. And so, yeah. So, I mean, when it came down to it, I already had all of my prerequisites, essentially all of my chemistry and science classes done before I even went to Cal Poly.
Got it. So Cal Poly, Enology and agriculture or agricultural business?
Yeah, ag business. I had to take like an extra class or two to secure that. So I was like, might as well throw a little, tip at the end there, just in case this whole winemaking thing doesn't work out. But yeah, I mean, our class was super, the camaraderie for our class in Cal Poly was pretty remarkable, and it's really intimate. We only had 35 people in our graduating class. And so all of us were very close by the time we were getting ready to graduate, and I think we left an imprint on one another. And I think even our college professor, our primary college professor for Enology, also took away this kind of sense of camaraderie that we carried from one another. And there's a bunch of people in the area that are doing a bunch of cool things. So yeah.
Of any of your classmates that are in the industry that you're still in touch with?
Yeah, Lady of the Sunshine, Gina, Alice Anderson, she has her own project going on right now. There's a bunch of people who have kind of like floated around and done kind of similar things as I've done, kind of traveling and working for some pretty cool places, and haven't really landed at a rock star facility as a winemaker yet, but I totally believe that one day they will. So yeah, I think there's more than a handful of people who had the ambition to start their own project, and it's really invigorating and exciting to see people come up with fresh new ideas. And
well, traveling to exciting places is a good segue. So you're wrapping up Cal Poly. Time to figure out what's next, and you're heading to Australia. Do you remember that area well where you were working in Australia?
Yeah, Tanunda.
Do you
Yeah.
remember Railway Terrace?
No.
All right. So if you're taking Railway Terrace to the winery you were working at, what is it, Elderton?
Yeah.
And you take a right to go there, or if you go dead end and take a left to a winery there, which makes the better Shiraz?
I'm not sure. Are you talking about Penfolds?
Yeah, I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna say the name.
No, it's interesting to see people work at a really high level, really high scale, and still be able to produce a really high level of wine. It's not something that particularly excites me, but I was lucky to get that opportunity because when I was graduating, a bunch of people that I knew were already going down there, and it was only through a connection through somebody that I now consider my French family, who linked me with them when I was working at Justin during an internship for Cal Poly. So I worked at Justin in 2013. Wow, 10 years ago. How time flies, huh?
Right.
And so yeah, I worked at Justin in 2013, met this French guy and his now wife, and he proceeded to go down to Australia after I'd been there, and so I was scouring the internet and sending my resume everywhere in the, this, that, and the other, and no one was getting back to me. And it was actually only because the only reason I got to go was because somebody else wasn't able to get their visa. And so I was like an 11th hour add-on to their intern pool. So it was quite nice. And I went with the guy who was my manager at Justin. So it was interesting because he wasn't my manager anymore, but we were still buddies. And yeah.
So this is Elderton in southern Australia, right?
Yeah.
How do you say the name of the valley?
The Barossa.
Barossa. That's right.
Yeah.
And so what's your role there? What are you doing there, and what all are you guys making there?
I was just a kid with a walkie-talkie that they let me run around the facility with. I think because of the experience of being at Justin, working with maybe a little bit of a larger facility, Brad and I kind of had a semi leadership role because everybody else was quite green, kind of fun. But the amount of history that place had, the wines are still to this day fermented in, the high-end wines for them are fermented in concrete cubes, but it's an open top fermenter. And so every year they have to go through with beeswax and melt off all of the wax and then reseal all of the fermenters. And there's no doors. The fermenters were made in the 1880s. And so everything has to be shoveled over essentially a 5-foot wall. And so it's probably one of the hardest dig outs you'll ever do. And, it still ingrains, the sense of history that wine in these places of the world really carry.
I don't think a lot of people, especially in North America, understand how old the wine business is in Australia. But you're working with 100-year-plus old vines in Australia, right?
Yeah, correct. 100, 120-ish. And if you think about it, every year, if you're driving a tractor and you take one out accidentally, or you do several wrong pruning cuts, it could be detrimental to the vine. And so you have to be very cognizant. And while I didn't work in the vineyards, they wouldn't let me do that. It becomes a very stark reality when you have to, be very cognitive of, this is a special plot of land that's been nurtured for 5 generations now. And so, yeah.
So is the primary difference when you're working with vines that old, just the fragility, the delicateness of the vines, or what all would you characterize as the difference?
No, I think the resiliency. I think those vines have the ability to adapt over time, and I think there's something garnered by this, having this resiliency over, changing global temperatures that we're dealing with today. Yeah, I think that's a primary focal point, and I think the older the vine is, maybe the less you have to work with it, because it self-mitigates itself and self-regulates really well. Where these younger vines that are in Paso and planted in our area, other than the Ducey, of course, maybe next time you guys are up in town, maybe take a look at the Ducey vineyards on either side of the road that are head trained. Those are about 90 years old, but they don't do much leafing on any of them, and they're very well regulated in terms of crop, and I think that's an important factor in terms of what makes old vine so good.
Got it. That makes sense. So from Australia, you're heading home. You connect with Guillaume.
Mm-hmm.
Guillaume Fabre, for those who don't know, who has the Clos Solène label and makes the wine for his brother at Benham. At the time, he was just leaving L'Aventure, where he was making reserve wine for Hearst Ranch, if I remember that right.
Yep.
And then you join up with him, and you're working with him in the cellar. Which cellar is this that you're working in? Is it Hearst Ranch?
No, so the wine, the reserve wine that he was making at the time was being processed at his facility in Tin City. And
Gotcha.
so I actually met him before I graduated college, and Scotty and Natalie from Hearst and Arbuckle Ridge connected me, and pretty much just for this one day of working for them. And at the time, he was sharing an intern with Aaron, and it was becoming too chaotic. I think both of them needed to do something at the same time, and they'd have to play rock, paper, scissors to see who wanted to get the intern.
This is Aaron Jackson, who shared a space with him in Tin City, in the Benham space before it was Benham.
Correct. Yeah, it's crazy how time flies, huh?
Yeah, and the two of them both shared space previously in Paso Underground, or both.
Yeah, so it was a perfect fit for them, and so I worked this one day with Guillaume, and he said, I quite like your work ethic. We'll figure something out. But I told him I was already going to Australia, so it's pretty much as soon as I came back from Australia, I was working for him. Which Clos Solène at the time was quite small. It was only me, Adrian, Solène, and Guillaume. So it was fun to see, where he's gone from now, and it's crazy.
And he made a connection for you for your next adventure, which, for those that don't know this winery, one of the most sought after wines in the world, tell us about what that next adventure is.
Yeah, so I went through the harvest of 15 with Guillaume, and I didn't even know at the time that his brother Nicolas worked at Petrus. And we were winding down the new year, because we went through harvest. We were chilling a little bit, and he said, "Hey, I have this opportunity. You can go work with my brother Nicolas in Petrus for the summer, and maybe take a little break, and then afterwards you can go work with Julien Barreau at Chateau Petrus, Domaine la Barroche."
So time out. I want to know your reaction when he says this to you.
Yeah, it's funny. I was explaining it to my parents. They're like, "Okay, so you're going to France?" I taught the wineries. They weren't quite aware of, the significance of the whole situation, and um, yeah, it was really exciting. But the thing is it was my responsibility to logistically figure out how to make it happen, and it's quite difficult with French legislation to work in two different areas that have two different. They work not in the same way, so you'd have to have a representative on either side talking to the government. This was way too difficult, and so I actually had to get like a permission that this was a master's program from Cal Poly to be able to work at Petrus, and then I just carried that over to Domaine la Barroche.
Were you working at both of them at the same time?
No, I was at Petrus for the summer. So I think May to mid-August, I think.
And there you're doing more Bordeaux varietals at Petrus, right?
Yeah, almost 100% Merlot.
Right.
They have some other plants, but the significance is negligible.
Yeah. Um, and then it's Rhone over at Domaine.
Correct. Yeah. So they pretty much hit all of the major Rhone varieties. They make a little bit of Syrah. A majority of it is Grenache and Cinsault, and Mourvèdre. And they made a little bit of Claret Blanche the year I was there.
And how would you contrast that experience? I know there are probably a lot of differences between just those two wineries, but in comparison to your previous experiences, what was that like in France?
Well, I think I never really worked at a facility or a vineyard that really took the amount of care that they did in Petrus. I really think I learned a lot, and pretty much everything that I applied to all of the plots that I sourced from, with this kind of mentality, and just uncompromising push for quality at all times, and also a meticulous attention to detail. We spend a lot of time in that vineyard, and 2016 was maybe one of the best vintages that they've ever had. And that's thanks strictly to Mother Nature. There was a little bit of a late rain in June and July, which allowed the vines to have a little bit more vigor, but the rest of the time it was quite dry and humid, so it was really good growing degree days. And yeah, I think I carry that mentality quite well in terms of the experiences that came after that. And so yeah, it's Petrus is a little bit of a bigger team, working with Julien. Typically my experiences are with winemakers and just me and them. So there's lots of opportunities to be asking questions, thoughtful reasoning behind decision making, and Barroche was very cool as well because there was one cellar that was 1 year old at the time, and then there was the other cellar where they still make their Liberty wine, is 90 years old at the time. So you work with these different challenges that infrastructure plays in terms of wine production.
So you had these incredible experiences in France, world class, truly, some of the best wineries in the world. Then you're heading home after what sounds like a difficult experience to navigate just because of, the government. You come back in, is it iTech?
Yeah, it's now iTech. It was formerly known as IPAC. But yes, iTech is a mobile filtration technology company that's owned by Manu Fiorentini, husband of Jordan Fiorentini of Epic Estate Wines. He also sells wine infrastructure such as barrels and these very pretty Nico Velo tanks. They're gorgeous. And
What did you? I'm so curious about that work, and what did you do there?
well, I was primarily a filtration guy. To find a job in January in the wine industry is like finding a needle in a haystack.
Right, right.
And I had known Manu from working with Guillaume, and I saw that he was looking for somebody, and it was a perfect fit for me. And so yeah, it was nice. Just go around and filter wines, and it's pretty lackluster, and it's a wonderful job, but somebody had to do it, and it was gratefully me at the time.
So you did that for a little while. You've had these incredible experiences already in Australia and some in Paso and France, but you had an itch to do some work in Napa. So you land at another cult winery at Realm in Napa during. I mean, I want to say fire season, but it's like too often fire season anymore, I guess, right?
Yeah, supposedly every year we're shooting 50% right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually I had a conversation with Manu saying, you know, I really appreciate the opportunity to support me, and but my passion is with wine, and I want to continue my wine career. And I actually had applied to Realm and heard back quite quickly, and they were very excited to bring me on. And then happenstantially enough, a position in 2017 opened up at Sine Qua Non. And I remember when I was talking with Guillaume, one of my friends, was like, in 2015, hey, you should apply. Sine Qua Non was looking for somebody then as well. And I was like, oh, there's no chance they would take me. I don't have any experience. I worked at Justin 1 year, and well, that's it. So it's crazy to see where 2 or 3 years in the wine industry can take you in terms of confidence if you really have the really great opportunity. And I applied in 2017 to work at Sine Qua Non. And I remember the day I applied, I was doing a filtration job in San Luis, and Manu called me, and normally we work pretty independently, but he's like, hey, I'll be there in 25 minutes. And we had a meeting, and it's like, you'll never guess who emailed me or called me this morning. No idea.
Manfred.
Yeah, he got on the phone, and he's like, Manfred's coming up next week to meet with me. Well, that's pretty exciting. And so they have their meeting, and a few weeks later, I went down and had an interview with Manfred and August and Devin, and I left the meeting. We're both very big motorcycle fans, so MotoGP for us is kind of like soccer for Europeans, or it's kind of our lifeblood essentially. So we talked a little bit about wine and a lot about MotoGP and racing. And I called my mom on my way home, and I was like, hey, Mom, you know, I'm going to have to apologize to the people in Napa because I really think I had this job. And 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, 4 weeks go by. I'm following up with Devin, not really hearing anything back. And they ended up giving the position to somebody else. And so I packed up my bags and headed up north to Napa, which was quite a defining year for them. They had a huge issue with fires that year. Only a small portion of the fruit had been brought in, and it's the unfortunate circumstance of the wine industry is Mother Nature.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to meet Juan Mercado while you were there?
Yeah, actually, we had dinner a month and a half ago or 2 months ago. So yeah, he's a great guy, starting his own new project, Rise, here in Paso. I think everybody should be quite excited for this. And they have Anthony Yount as their winemaker, and I think they have a very, very bright future.
So I want to slow down. I want to explain for not everybody on here. As soon as you mentioned Sine Qua Non, I saw Craig start to smile a little bit. Not everybody may be familiar with them, so I want to talk about kind of who they are too. But before we do that, Realm is a cult winery in Paso doing, kind of traditional Napa wine. Well, I should say traditional, doing it really well. Juan Mercado, who was there for a while. You didn't meet him while you were up there, though? You met him?
Yeah, no, we met him. Yeah.
And now Juan is in Paso starting a new label called Rise. That's with 2 I's, Riise. Worth looking up and getting on his list. And so you didn't get a ton of time with Realm just because you had this opportunity materialize at Sine Qua Non, right?
No, I didn't get the position at Sine Qua Non to start.
Right.
So I did my whole harvest. I did a whole harvest in Napa in 2017. I moved up in June or something like this, and so I had a good idea of how they work with the wines when they're in élevage and bottlings and things like this. I think these are important aspects of the winemaking process that not all the interns really get to see. And so, yeah.
And so then it's 2018, the following year is when you're back. This opportunity comes up with Sine Qua Non.
Yeah, so they posted the people in 2017, ended up not working out. And that's when I wrote them a letter highlighting my experiences and why I felt like I would be a perfect candidate for the position. And so it was only after that they asked me to come down to have another interview. And
Alex, I've wondered this for so long because I've heard it so many different ways. But as a representative of somebody who used to work there, officially, what's the right way to pronounce that winery's name?
Well, I think it's Sine Qua Non.
Okay, Sine Qua Non.
If you can get that.
Yeah,
I think it's Sine Qua Non.
Sine Qua Non, okay. Which is actually an actual term that means, well, shoot, I don't even want to try and represent what it means now. The essential or something.
Yeah, without this, there's nothing.
Without, yeah.
Yeah, to this.
So they may be the biggest kind of cult winery in the Central Coast, doing predominantly Syrah, Grenache, some whites, and then a variety of spin-offs they have where they're doing some blends, but incredible winery with a wait list 10 plus years, fair to say, to get on. I know I haven't made my 10-year mark.
Maybe longer.
Maybe longer, yeah, probably longer. But it sounds like they're doing some new things there recently that might change things, but I'll digress on that. So tell us about your experience there. And I'm going to drop some of these names in the chat for people that are interested in looking up and follow.
Yeah, so it was really nice because we started very early in the vineyard, and I think 50 or 60% of my time, the entire time I was there, I was in the vineyard. And I think I had a competitive advantage with the other people that they had hired because I'd already worked at Petrus. So when it came to pulling laterals, when it came to kind of shaping clusters, I kind of had an idea or a mentality of the way and how these wineries really work and function at this level. So,
and you got a lot of that insight from
Petrus.
Yeah.
I think Petrus was a really defining light in terms of understanding viticulture, and the viticulture that they implemented versus the viticulture of Sine Qua Non is quite similar to a degree. I mean, of course, there's going to be some changes in terms of aspects and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's being meticulous and really working diligently with each vine and each plant and each shoot. And so that was kind of going in through the summer, and then we did. They have another kind of winery called. It's the same winery, but they have the Avenue where they do all of their packing and all of these kinds of things. So we spent a good amount of time there, and then when it came down to harvest, it's as you would suspect. It's all hands on deck is how I would describe it. Everybody participates, and
Are they bringing in volunteers?
I don't think so at the moment.
I mean, while you're there, were they bringing in volunteers or?
No, I think some high when I was there, some people that I was familiar with in terms of celebrities. They don't offer any kind of visits really during harvest, just so that they have the ability to stay strictly focused on the production of the craft. And yeah, so we had that harvest. There was one extreme heat day, which in late July, which was pretty catastrophic to the vintage, and something that I had never seen before, and neither had they. And thankfully enough, the fruit that was still existing was exceptional, and so it was kind of a lighter harvest for them. But yeah,
Lighter in terms of tonnage that they were able to pull?
yeah, moderately to a degree, yeah. Just from that cumulus estate.
So then, and forgive me, I know I'm just watching the clock and we're getting tight on time. So I want to get into your label here too.
Yeah, no worries.
It's just so much to explore here. So then you have this time and experience here at the Sine Qua Non, and what makes you decide why you have this incredible opportunity working at this world-class cult winery to then go start your own label and walk away from that opportunity?
Well, yeah, it was a tough one, but honestly, it came from I was managing the night shift, and we started around 1, and I think the latest we had to stay one night or 2 nights was till 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the morning. But during that time, my dad was sending me numbers from the site that we did the building on, which is now we're partners with this site called Solana. And it was 2018 was an anomaly year for us there. And I asked him, because I didn't believe the numbers he was sending me, to go back the next day and to do the thing again, just so I can confirm that the numbers that he was getting were right. And we ended up pulling off of a little bit of Petite Sirah. So essentially the way I managed this was I would work the night shift, and every day you're kind of on call at Sine Qua Non during harvest. So you could work 5 or 6 days in a row, and then you go in the next day and hey, you don't have any work tomorrow. So I'd always go in with my bag packed, especially when I knew that I was thinking about making a little bit of wine in Paso. And so it just happenstantially worked out to where, right as the grapes were being crushed, I was going to have the next day off so I can go up and work with them. And then consequentially, the next day I didn't have to go in. But driving up to Paso after working all night to wake up in the morning to go work on your days off and then come back down to be there in time for harvesting again it's a lot of work. And I was kind of feeling it at that point. And I had a friend up here who was looking for some extra help. So I had a steady employment, and then the opportunity to make something of my own as well. So our first release of Allbaer was 2018 vintage in 2020. We made a handful of these Petite Sirah, more or less, and we sold it as a 3-pack in a wood box. that my dad and I actually designed and built each one. And so, yeah, that's how Allbaer started. And we've since progressed and really excited for the future.
Tell us about your artwork. So you've got very distinct artwork. What's the inspiration there?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm a big fan of the fashion industry, believe it or not. I think garments are maybe the most difficult thing in the world to sell because they all have the same utility. And it's just the messaging and the meaning behind them, I think, really showcases people's personalities. And so at the time, actually, the bottle shape came first. If you remember my previous bottle shape, it's a little bit eccentric. That came first, and then actually the whole idea of the brand came behind it. But I wanted to influence something that had a sense of class, but then also a sense of cultural influence that was not so contemporary. And I think I wanted something that kind of clashed, but sang harmoniously together. That's why there's this influence of art or graffiti or this kind of new age look, but then also it still is all has this cursive, very elegance to it. And I think that's the big inspiration behind the thinking of why this wine label. We wanted the wine to really showcase.
I do notice that this bottle is the same shape as my fingers crossed and third twin. Did you make connections while you were there? That is
No, actually, the glass is extremely hard to source right now. We'd be
Yeah.
buying earlier if we could get it sooner, but it's 11 months out to order that glass. And the glass before, I was the only person in the domestic North America sourcing this glass. So in terms of sourcing, it's just very difficult, and it's just happenstantial. I think there's the next one. If there was a row, maybe we'll have to go through the ducks and in order to make our releases on time. But as for now, we're going to continue to stick with this one, and maybe we'll have to buy enough for another couple vintages so we don't miss a. Yeah. So.
This last vintage, 2020, you added Syrah to what was your Grenache and Sangiovese portfolio. By the way, I know you and I talked about this. I'm not historically a big fan of Sangiovese, and most of that came from drinking it in Italy, where it's very popular. Just a little too acidic for me. Yet your Sangiovese is incredible to me. I love it. I can't get enough of it. And James Suckling apparently feels the same way. And James Suckling is not generally a big fan of Paso. He doesn't quite give Paso the props that others do. Yeah, he posted a picture of your Sangiovese while he was in Hong Kong, calling out how amazing it was. That must have felt pretty good.
Incredible. Huh? I had a friend, a now friend, reach out to me to say if the wine was accessible, who lived in Hong Kong. And well, I've never shipped wine to Hong Kong before, but any opportunity to send the wine overseas is kind of a fun one. And after he received it, he said, hey, next week I'm going to lunch with James. Which wine should I bring? And fortunately enough, the next morning, James sent me a sweet little message saying, hey, enjoying the Sangio in Hong Kong. I hope all is well. And
Nice.
it's the little things like that move the needle for us. And
he tends, in my opinion, seems like he tends to favor Italian wine. So him recommending this one, giving it the props that he did as an Italian wine lover, and one who historically doesn't give Paso the props that some of the others do, to me, that makes it kind of even more of a special recommendation.
Yeah, it's very cool. But I think so. Special thing about the Sangio is I cultivate it the whole year by myself. It comes off of Solana. It's only a 1.4 acre parcel. And I pretty much do everything. The only time we ever get anybody else really involved is for the harvest. So the mentality of the way that the things that I learned from Petrus and Sine Qua Non aren't necessarily applicable to the Sangio, because I think it needs to be cultivated slightly differently. And I think the next wines coming are maybe a little bit more fresh. We're going at it with a different kind of mentality. We're still kind of splitting up the parcel. But I think the fresher pick is going to be more fresh, and maybe the second pick, which is typically a new or once used oak, that will be maybe a little bit leaner as well. So I think if I look at my portfolio and I could say which wine has evolved the most over the course of the short 5 years that we've been making wine, I would say this one.
Got it. Alex, I've got 3 quick questions left, but I know we're at time. Are you good for a
Yeah,
few
I'm
more
fine.
questions?
I think the Lakers lost, so it's all good.
So you mentioned kind of the experiences you had and how they've kind of helped shape your winemaking, even though none of that was Sangiovese, which is super interesting. What are there still things that you've learned in your experiences that you haven't been able to implement yet?
I think I think I've really ran the back end on it. I think for the most part, I think I maybe did too much, and I'm learning. I need to learn to do less, because I think that sometimes, like I was talking about the Sangio, working in a very dogmatic way. Boy, 1 year I shaped every cluster on the thing. Boy, I probably shouldn't have done that. But yeah, I think looking at everything as what was the decision making we did, and what was the end result, and how can we refine this to a degree. I think that's the most important aspect to producing anything to any extent. And it's something that I'm constantly analyzing, especially when we have the difficulties of Mother Nature like we did this year. It's very difficult to analyze the decision makings we did in a very short period of time. And I think it's never to be running in your loop, just saying this is what we do because we do it like this. It's not pragmatic. So I think I look at every year as an opportunity to learn. And if I'm lucky, I get 35 more tries at this, or maybe 40. But every year I'm trying to add a little secret into my hatchet and bust it out when I need it.
Got it. Well, speaking of secrets, it comes to what's become one of our more popular questions here in a relatively new segment for us, and it's the pro tip. So we're looking for you to share with the group here a pro tip that you have, maybe something that you see, from your experience that wine consumers could do differently or do better to improve their wine enjoyment.
Well, I think the best one is maybe to drink less, huh? No, in all seriousness, I think wine is maybe consumed too early. I think that this is can be a difficult thing especially when you're trying to enjoy something that's maybe been aged for a period of time or is quite young and needs to
I was going to open one of your 2014s, but I was all out of them.
Yeah, me too, actually. Funny you'd say that. But no, I think for us, particularly, our wines evolve quite a large multitude of degrees in terms of when they're open to when they're consumed. And I think maybe if you open it and drink it in the first 30 or 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, I think there's maybe something that you've missed. But that's it.
So when you say too early, you mean opening a vintage too early, or you mean when you open it, not giving it enough time to breathe, or you mean
correct? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, more the latter.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that this
Got
is.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Good pro tip. Similar to one we had, I think, last time too. So
Right.
common thread there. So let's. I want to wrap before, and if you have time, we'll open up any other questions. But I want to talk about your wine now and where, because you don't have a tasting room. By the way, is there any ambition at some point to have your own estate, your own vineyards?
Yes. So no, we do offer tastings. We were in the fall, but just by appointment exclusively because Brian was gracious enough to let me borrow his facility and his barrel room, which was quite fun. I think everybody quite enjoyed themselves who has had the opportunity to come and visit.
You're talking about Brian Farrell, Colette?
Correct. Yeah. So that's where we make our wine now, is in Brian's new facility.
Coletta? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah. I can only say great things about him. We are unfortunately unable to really host tastings, as for the fact that we don't really have much wine left. And so that we won't be able to offer any until after the next release. In terms of owning an estate or being a part of one, in 2021 we planted 1.94 acres of property here in Paso, on the west side, just north of Adelaida Road. And so it's kind of a new project that we just took on. And
what kind of fruit? Can you tell us?
Yeah, it's all Rhone based. It's Grenache and Syrah heavy. But the soil composition is on mostly sand, sesame sand, which for Rhone varieties, I think it's like a godsend, and especially in this climate, it's super rare to find this kind of soil texture. And so we'll be pulling hopefully the first fruit off of that this year. And I'm still unsure of how it's going to really fit into the portfolio, if that becomes something new or a portion of the Allbaer brand as it is right now. Only the future holds that answer. But yeah, it's very exciting, and we're also going to expand it 0.3 of an acre this year. So yeah,
I look forward to hearing updates on that one. So
yeah.
Right now your wine is available primarily or exclusively through your website, correct?
Correct, yes.
I'll drop the link in the chat box for anybody that needs to see it.
Cool, thank you.
And then we got a question from Laura or Patrick, or one of the two. How many cases of each of the 3 varietals have you been making? And then 2020, 2021, 2022. Are they still on here? I don't know, they're not still on here, are they? Oh yeah, you're right there. You're right there. Can you unmute and clarify what you're looking for there? Like, are you asking how many cases of each varietal for each of those vintages?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an idea of, Alex, how much are you doing? Are you growing? Are you staying the same size? And I just have to say, so I've never had your wine before. You were so kind this week to ship me a couple of bottles at the last minute.
Yes, thank you very much. It was beautiful.
Yeah, my pleasure.
It arrived this morning. It was not optimal for us to open it today on the same day of shipping, but we did it anyway. And the Grenache has been absolutely beautiful. And so thank you very much. You have new fans. But yeah, so I'm just trying to get an idea of what volume are you currently being able to do? And then through this conversation, through Jason asking you questions, I'm going to add on to the question. And that is, if you're looking to grow, are you looking for investors? Are you looking to, how are you going to make that happen?
No, I think strictly through reinvesting the money that we make from this project. For instance, in 2018, we made 300 bottles, something like that, the Petite Sirah. The next year, the Louverture, we made 135 cases of the Sangio and Grenache. But those were single picks. So those wines that we made that year were pretty much our 2 shots to make wine. And that's pretty much everything we had to do. In 2020, we stepped it up and added Syrah into our portfolio. So that was another 100 cases plus. So we did about 250 cases in 2020. And then we've slowly been growing slightly. I think we'll grow another 30 to 50% this year, depending on how we do it. And we're going to have a lot of extra work because we'll have this new site that we've planted. And then just trying to expand the brand is going to be a kind of a big one for us. But thankfully enough, we have this beautiful growing season so far, and we've gotten a ton of water, and this is really ideal conditions for especially vines that are only a couple years old or a year old. So hopefully we'll get a nice good canopy, a luscious fruit set, and we'll have something to play with. But for the most part, no. Essentially, we're only making this much wine because it's kind of all I can afford, to be honest. We don't have any outside investor. I pay for everything, and my parents look at me because my mom does my books, and she looks at me. You're paying for this fruit bill, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's already paid for, Mom.
Yeah.
David's asking where all. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
Kudos to you. The package that you sent today, that we received today, it was clear, it was high touch, high class.
Thank you.
You guys, you are putting everything towards this, and it was noticed and appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you
I
very much.
actually want to ask, did you spray paint the box or was it printed like that?
I spray paint every one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt the
I'm sorry,
texture.
I didn't get to throw a letter in yours because I was kind of rushed. Typically they come with a letter. I'm sorry, Mike.
That's okay. No, there's no apology needed.
Alex,
we
David's
were
asking
going to get a chance to meet you tonight. I have a question though. When's your next vintage release?
So we won't be releasing any wine until October.
Okay.
So yeah, we kind of have quite a while of time to stare at each other or stare at the vines or something like that. It's quite crazy because our last release, it took almost to the end of the beginning of September for us to sell the wine, and now we're looking at maybe the end of February, early March is kind of the last little spot that the wine will be available, and that's several months earlier than the last release. And if things stay consistent, it's going to be shorter and shorter, I believe.
Alex,
I just want to
ask him
thank
where
you.
Sorry, Mike.
I was just going to say, I just want to thank you for helping Laura get.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's just
the support.
we kind of communicated, but apparently she hooked up with you, and I'm glad you were able to help.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So David's asking where all you source fruit from other than Solana. I think I know where you get your Syrah from, but
yeah. So Grenache is typically coming from Calesta, and the reasoning behind that is if you look at the latitude difference of Côte Rôtie and Châteauneuf. Châteauneuf is 4 or 5 degrees warmer than Côte Rôtie, and if you apply that same kind of mentality in a longitudinal manner, it only makes sense that if it's only slightly warmer, the Grenache may be a little bit more showcase these riper aromatics, which I believe Grenache needs to be ripe for this. And so up to last year, Calesta was my primary source for Grenache. Coastal Vineyard Care farms their site, and And they farm all of the premier sites here in Paso Robles. And going forward, we'll continue to use that as our base. We added Copia to it last year. They have a block that's farmed in a similar manner of a Chalas, which is very small Goublé style, spur trained positioning, but it's quite low to the ground, and all of the vines are tied to a stake, and 2/3 of their parcels are farmed in this manner. But the fruit quality is extraordinary because they have to chop 50% of the fruit off. So this is kind of our mentality with the Grenache, and Hawks Hill and Denner we're still primary focus is Syrah and Graciano. We still are sourcing from Hawks Hill, which is the eastern facing slope in Adelaide district. And after the 2020 vintage, Jim Benz purchased Slide Hill. And he was looking for people to acquire more fruit than I was willing to buy at the time. And so we had to move sites, and we picked up Piazza Bella Vista, formerly known as Harrison Clark. So Harrison Clark, Hawks Hill, and Denner Graciano is kind of our sourcing for the future.
Right.
And then also anything fun we decide we want to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excited to hear about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite nice. And Ballard Canyon, I think, is quite a special place. It offers a bit of heat, but also this kind of cooler, maybe more blueberry, less olive tapenade characteristic of Syrah that I think is essential to adding complexity. I like the idea of having maybe like a cooler climate paired with a warmer climate, but it has to be maybe a little bit warmer of the cooler climate. And this is kind of what excites me. So, yeah.
Well, some good news, Alex. The Lakers pulled it off 1-1 at the buzzer.
Shut.
Yep.
No way.
Yeah.
Have to watch the highlights.
Um,
Cool.
I know we've taken you way past time and made you miss the dramatic ending to the Lakers game.
I'll watch the highlights.
But I'm super grateful for your time. It was a pleasure having you on here. Super big fan of your wine, as you know, and I hope everybody gets a chance to check it out if they haven't already.
No, really, please. It's
We enjoy having a new winemaker on, you know, not high volume, but we try to stay like in the boutique range, you know, that 500 to 400 to 3,500 cases. Yeah. Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
I barely made the cut.
What's that?
I barely made the cut.
Yeah. I didn't know what number to throw out there to tell you. But
no, it's all good.
Yeah, no, it's great. And because we know we're going to have you back, and
yeah,
it'll elevate. And this wine is spectacular.
thank
And
you.
we need to share that with everybody. That's how you get started, right?
Yeah, I think sharing the story is the most important part for us right now, because so few people actually we can offer tastings to so few people. That's the only way. So I totally appreciate everybody's support, because if it wasn't for this community and everybody out there, I wouldn't be able to do this, and I wouldn't be able to, you know, make this for you guys. So it's actually a thank you to you, and I really appreciate you guys inviting me on here and taking time out of your evening to spend it with me.
Well,
Thank
you, Alex.
Thank you so much,
everybody,
Alex.
for dialing in too.
Hey, Jason,
My pleasure.
Jason,
ahead.
this is Ann. Quick question. For Alex, is there anywhere to pick up in Paso, or do you only ship?
You can email me. Yeah, we can arrange something. Typically, what I'll do is if somebody wants to pick up, I'll make them a special code, and then we can arrange that at a different time, and that way you can get out of the shipping thing.
Well, yeah, only because I'm in Wisconsin and shipping in winter pretty much is.
Oh, we have a
Yeah, don't buy that she's in Wisconsin. She's in California more than
I will be in
typically.
California most of April and May, so that's why I want to know if I can just come pick up some stuff.
Yeah, totally. Well, we have so many orders we've gotten this month that I just cannot feel comfortable shipping. It's crazy.
She's got a suitcase with no clothes. She just fills it back up with wine when she gets.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
that was me when I was coming back from France. And
Oh, wait. Important question, Alex. Do you like
Yeah.
beer? You like Coors Light? Okay, I got to
Love
bring
it.
a spotted cow because that's what I do. I ship my empty shippers with beer out to California.
Oh, that'd be
bring
awesome.
back with with wine.
That would be awesome. Thank
All
you.
right.
I appreciate it.
I will message you offline.
Yes, please do. We can coordinate.
Hey, Ann, I apologize. I didn't see your hand, but you just made me realize that Dave had his hands up too. So, Dave, you have a quick question?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. First of all, thanks for doing this. And Alex, thanks for being on here. I live in Arizona, so I don't see the day-to-day things that go on here. But quite honest, the last two of these that we had, I actually visited those on my last trip out, first part of January. I managed to navigate the road with all the water. But quite honest, this goes a long way to folks. And I encourage you to get a chance to even get on here. Again, just listen. I just say thanks to Jason and Mike for putting this thing together.
Totally. Yeah.
I really enjoy it here. I do.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
We appreciate that.
We have many more to come. We're booked through the end of the year and even into next year. I haven't put those up yet. So,
Wow. I think you guys booked me
Long time ago.
8 months ago, 9 months ago.
Yeah.
We have requests to go well into 2024 right now.
Wow. That's awesome. And that just goes to show the beauty of how Paso is growing, and the amount of enthusiasm people have here is pretty remarkable. I think we're taking over the wine industry in our own modest way to a degree, and I'm very excited, especially being a guy who came from here. To see its growth these last 5 years has been extraordinary.
I think the secret is, Alex, that everybody wants to hear your story. And that's really what's amazing. The wine is amazing. We know that. We just want to hear the journey. That's what this group is, what this whole broadcast is about. So.
And it's quite a journey. And I'm inclined to want to thank your dad for getting that 1 ton of fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I have to thank him too, huh? Even though I'm pretty hard on him sometimes.
So anyways, thank you, Alex.
My pleasure.
This is the point where if you want to drop off, that's fine. But this is the point where, like, you want to bitch or praise the page or ask questions. We're all good.
No, I think my just got here, so I think
I got people that want to bitch sometimes. So
No, I don't like that.
you don't follow that. Yeah, I know.
Nah, it's not my vibe.
Are your tech notes on the website?
Descriptions of the wines are, yeah. And I don't really write tech notes. I really just kind of write the mentality behind the wine, and then leave it up to you to decide to taste and see what you think of it.
Okay.
So, all right, you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, Alex.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.